All right. So this is for Dr. Kelpie's midterm. Uh, Instructions are to have a meal with your father or a male figure. We already had dinner, so we're having coffee. Cheers. And so uh, he basically asked us not to be as much as an interview, but more of a guide conversation. So,
Okay.
well, the first topic is Sidney Poitier's idea of the true measure of a man. And basically, the idea behind this is in Question of Soul, we read a book called The Measure of a Man, and it was written by Sidney Poitier. And in it talked about his life and experience coming to America, experiencing racism in the 30s. And at one point, he talks about what his father's definition of the true measure of a man is, and that is the true measure of a man is how he provides for his family. And, well, what do you think is the true measure of a man?
Um, that's not a bad definition. I don't. It might not be so much providing for your family as it is living up to your responsibilities. If you're
For the family, right?
right, or if you're a single man, you still have to live up to whatever responsibilities you've taken or assumed.
Right. You have a dog
Um,
or something like that.
yeah. In my case, living up to my responsibilities is something I've learned from my dad. You know, you do go to work every day. You do come home. You make sure you're available for the children. I used to joke with mom. I said it didn't matter what kind of day I had. Whenever I came home, I was always on. I was dad, and I think so. That's definitely a big part of it is providing for your family, but not just money. And divorced dads can provide for their family, but I don't think that's living up to your responsibility. I
Right.
think it's not just money or cooking or cleaning. It's being there for the kids, for guiding them, helping them to grow up, being part of their lives, and to the point where you you wave goodbye to them as they walk out the door to begin their successful lives.
Yeah. Well, when I read provide, I didn't necessarily think monetary. I kind of thought provide was kind of like a loose-ended type thing, like provide for monetary needs, but also like spiritual guidance, parental needs, that kind of thing. So I felt that provide wasn't just money; it was kind of the whole general thing, at least to me. So, but yeah, so I'd say you have kind of the same idea of that. Uh, so that's your idea of the true measure of man. Would you add anything to that? Well, you kind of already said that, but would you add anything to that?
Well,
Take away from it?
I also think a measure of how successful I am as a man
Yeah.
becomes how successful you are as a man.
Okay.
My dad died when I was 21.
Right.
So I got back to grandma, my mom, and said, the reason I'm in such a great marriage and happy relationship because I learned from the best. I learned from you and dad. And it's going to be kind of the same thing.
And then you asked her for money, right?
Yes, no, never, mom. But it was the same thing with you. I'll know how well my teachings and examples were when I see you with your kids,
right.
and see how successful you are as a young man, with a new bride or the way you treat women. And that's kind of that's the validation of how successful I was as a man.
I didn't grow up to be a jerk.
Yeah, but was I able to teach you through example and like long-winded stories
yeah. Yeah.
what the proper path is for you?
Right. Okay.
So yeah, I guess it's always a paying it forward
Yeah.
kind of deal if you're doing it right.
Okay.
Because I probably wouldn't. I would only have. Um, I'd only have measured so far if you don't, measure the rest of the way.
Okay. That makes sense. All right. So I guess kind of along on a similar string to that. Looking up to people to guide from. Uh, do you have any role models or people you look up to? I don't know.
Well, one of the big ones is my dad. There was someone said a long time ago, if you can speak to any famous figure you ever wanted to that was died,
Mm-hmm.
who would you choose? And people were choosing, Einstein, old ball players, all, and it got to my point, and I simply said I'd like to, just talk to my dad. And people were like, oh, that's so sweet. But I've always thought my dad was my role model. Um, but other role models in my life, Ernie Zaki. You heard me talk about him from the Crescent Market for a long time. He was the one who first gave me my job in high school.
Yeah.
and he was the
That
one.
was your first job, right? Like real well
Well,
paying.
first job was when I was 11. I started with a paper route.
Okay.
First job at like a place of employment with like a boss who's watching over you was at the Crescent Market,
Okay.
and I worked there for 6 years.
Yeah.
But he was a big influence on me because I was shy at the time. He certainly took me under his wing, and he kind of got me away from the stock room into in front of people at the cash register. He taught me how to little skills, how to make change, how to deal with customers, how to deal with irate customers, how to deal.
Did you have a lot of experience with that?
A couple, how to deal with multiple people waiting for my service when you can only cut meat so fast.
Yeah. So like Thanksgiving time, Christmas.
Yeah, but a lot of life lessons. When I was able to drive, he gave me the keys to the van. It's like, all right, now you can do deliveries for me. There's no worry back then that I might slam into a pole or
Slip it over.
and there were times I drove on some really horribly snowy days. But it was a measure of his trust that I was going to bring the van back and all the money safe and sound. So he
was the van already beat up too from like previous people?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you probably wouldn't notice any new dents.
Yeah. No, but he taught me I guess about business, about people.
Right.
It's the one thing Pop and I always tell you. It's great to go out and bounce against molecules. Why is it so important to have a job when you're young? So you learn how to deal with people.
Before you get older.
Right, because you're going to deal with people all your life. Better to learn when you're young and a little more resilient than older when your pride might get upset or when you get more fragile.
Pride is for the foolish. Something like that.
So Ernie Zaki was definitely a big influence. A couple other influences were scout leaders.
Right.
We had Mr. Petrilli and Mr. Sweeney. And I guess a testament to how much respect I hold them in that I still call them, Mr. Petrilli and Mr. Sweeney. Though they're long passed away. But they were of the World War II generation, and they taught, especially in the Scouts, a lot about Mr. Petrilli was very about honor and discipline and holding yourself up righteous and you're as a man your word is your bond. And Mr. Sweeney was a bit of the polar opposite. He was more of like honor, discipline, and song. He said you can't have any of this without singing.
Hippie.
No, but I mean, but he was he was a lawyer. I actually earned the law merit badge under him.
Okay.
But he was kind of the same thing. Was part of of living life is the joy of a song, and that's why he used to say, if you can't sing well, sing loud. So I guess all three of those organizations, my dad, the market, and the Scouts certainly were huge in molding me to who I am and the values I adopted.
All right. Yeah, well, you talked about work, Ernest Jackie. Did you have any mentors in school?
Well, one of the hugest mentors was from Forner Prep. It was Father Sloan.
Your actual mentor?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, he was my freshman year mentor, French teacher. He was one of the first people to ever, or first person I knew to get an Atari 800. Now at that time,
computer, the game system,
the Atari game system was every kid's dream to get one of those. Brian McDonald had when we go to his house and play
every day.
Yeah, but Father Sloan picked up an Atari 800, and he would use that to grade tests. You would fill out those little cards, which we've all filled out before, but we never knew how they worked. And then he would take them and slide it through a little grading system, and then enter those into a rudimentary spreadsheet on his computer. And
wait, on the actual computer?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool, actually.
But it's not anything like Excel was today.
This is like 78, right? 78, 79?
Yeah, this would be 78, 79. But it was VisiCalc or it was some other really crude spreadsheet. But anything that tallied a bunch of numbers to give you an average, that was amazing back then. So why was he so influential? He let myself and Pat Blusen take programming listings we got from magazines and type them into his computer after hours. And they were all rudimentary games. Some of them were put a number 1 to 10. Can you think of the number I'm guessing? You put in 5. No, I'm guessing 1 higher. 9. No, I'm guessing 1 lower. 7. Oh, you got it. And I mean, compared to games now, very rudimentary. Pong was there.
Math. It's fun.
Yeah, well, some of the games were also slightly visual, where you'd move a character, and maybe you hit the dragon, you maybe hit the treasure, little Dungeons and Dragons type
Okay.
games like that, all text. But the powerful part was he let us, use this bit of technology, type in program listings. So Pat Blues and he'd be reading, I'd be typing. We'd save it on his computer, and then we'd run these things. And it was so amazing that whatever you typed in worked. And that's how I developed my lifelong love of programming.
Yeah.
And still programming today.
Yeah.
I'm doing what I love. I'm one of those rare people who in sophomore year I knew exactly what I wanted to do with my career. I wanted to be a programmer. And at that time the prep started getting some newer computers, Commodores, and I just went with it. And Grandma was always saying, "Are you sure you want to program computers? Don't you want to learn how to use this business piece of software?" Like, no, 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 Mom. I want to learn how to write the software. I don't want to be the one who learn how to run the software.
I don't want to be the monkey that uses it. I want to be the guy who builds and makes millions.
Yeah, but and looking back, from an adult now, looking back, it's just a huge outlet for just creativity.
Okay.
One of the things I wanted to do for the longest time was I wanted to write a game.
Yeah.
And
you talked about it, you said when you retire.
Right. I still have that the dream of writing a game, but the problem is game programming doesn't sell. It doesn't put food on the table. So yeah, building an indie game, that's right. That'd be great. But those are the kind of dreams that kind of keep you moving.
Yeah.
It's always good to have something to shoot for, and that's why. Yeah, again, it used to be when I'm in my 20s. Now it's when I was 50s. Now I retire. I retire, and I've got some time. I'll create the game.
Was that like how your dad wanted the Rolex? He always kept on the magazine.
Yeah, that was my dad's dream, was always to get a Rolex, but it was never the obtaining part of it that drove him forward. It was always the price comparison and looking at the new models that came out and seeing what was best. And he traveled a lot, so it was always do I get it in Japan? Do I get it in China? Do I look for it?
Price fluctuation.
Yeah, and it was just more of a, I guess,
fascination.
For my dad, it was a symbol of luxury that if he attained, he would have attained wealth, considering he grew up in Hell's Kitchen. He never bought it, but it was just the fun of.
Oh, so he never had a Rolex? Ever?
No, he had kids. He had 4 kids.
4 kids or a Rolex.
That's right. So he had his priorities. I got mine. My gaming, programming time will happen when I've got no time. Yeah. We'll see what that ever happens. You got to get that free time first.
That's always the tough part. Have you ever mentored anyone?
Probably. But what I mean by that, I don't know. I've never come out and been like a big brother to a disadvantaged kid.
Yeah.
I've never. I guess I've never been a formal mentor. I've took people under my wing in the business world. We've got a couple of young guys who would start with us, and we'd be inviting them in for coffee, come have lunch with us. There's always been the new kids coming into business.
Yeah.
We in the IT world have always made a point of bringing them quickly into the group.
Yeah.
And then guiding them along that way. If they ever ask for advice, we'd give it to them. Most recently was Connor, mentoring them through the Eagle process, so he could become an Eagle Scout. So I would say it's, I'd like to think that I'm more of a mentor by my example.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
That's probably better than just lecturing a kid what to do with his life.
Yeah, but the thing I always tell you is words don't matter, actions do.
Yeah.
And I try and live according to the Scout oath and the Scout law, and since they've become a part of me for so long, and just by example.
Yeah. Okay.
One of the other things I've never done in a mentoring type capacity is whenever I'm with kids, I never talk down to them. I never.
Right. Yeah, I've seen that with a few of all the cousins.
Yeah, I never try and lecture them. I talk to them as intelligent beings.
Intelligent 7-year-olds.
Well,
who are hitting each other with plastic swords.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's why I need the shining example.
Yeah.
So I'd probably say mentoring more in deed than in word.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. This is the fun one. Question is: ask him to share with you a story of some adventure that you've been a part of.
Well, that I've been part of.
Yeah.
Well, which of the many?
Yeah.
Um,
There we go. I don't think we have enough time on the camera. The battery on the computer might go out before we get all.
No, I'll give you the quick one.
All right. Your favorite one, your best one, where you learned the most from.
Probably the favorite one from a life changing thing was we're in Pennsylvania. John Conlon's family had a house in the Poconos. I'll tell you this story.
But for our viewers.
Yeah, for the viewers. In the being a scout back then, we loved having have-a-heart traps, and we put them out and we'd see what we caught at night. And
that's like a bear trap type thing, right?
No, it's just a long cage. Trap and release. So there'd be a pressure plate in the middle. You put peanut butter. A raccoon would go eat the peanut butter. The two sides would close in on him. And next morning you come out and you had a raccoon. Yeah. And you'd take pictures and it'd go run off.
Yeah, don't let it bite you, that type of thing.
So they had a problem with a raccoon knocking over their garbage cans in the Poconos. So we put out one of the larger traps. And for 3 to 4 days running, the trap was snapped, released, but we didn't catch anything. The peanut butter was gone. So we started putting under a heavy log, thinking that whatever it was big enough to wriggle its way out. So we come out the next day, and not only is the trap triggered again, but the log is moved. So
like a few inches, few feet.
It kind of knocked over, as if something kind of like bucked its way out and knocked the log over. And we said, "Oh my God, this is a monstrous raccoon." So we set the trap up so it was under even a larger log, and we put very large rocks at the other end. So when it triggered, it would come crashing down and hold whatever was in there tight. So it was, and we wanted to hear it was. It's the last night we're at the Poconos. They had a screened-in back porch with a couple of floodlights into the backyard, and we were sleeping on the surplus army bunks,
right. And
we were waiting for the raccoon to come. We had Johnny Carson on a black and white TV, and we're listening to the comedy, and we hear footfalls in the woods. We're like, gosh, it's coming. So we lower the TV down.
We'll get that damn raccoon.
And we're waiting, and we hear snuffling noises. You hear cracking, and you hear something rattling the cage. I'm like, wow, this is pretty big. And all of a sudden, you hear the trap release. You hear the rocks crash down, and you hear this loud, at that time, earth-shattering yowl. Eddie leans over and turns on the floodlights. And there, 10 feet away from us, is this brown bear with his hand stuck in a trap, rocks on it, and looking at us. And his older brother Johnny's like, turn off the light. And he's like, turn off the light. And
it's not the bear you see that kills, it's the one you don't see that kills.
And he turns off the light, and we hear a noise of something again extricating itself from the trap. You hear it being flung. You hear again a loud roar, and we're thinking this thing's coming through the screen. And then we hear the footfalls of it going away, and we look at each other, and it's the adrenaline. Your hands are shaking. Like, oh my God, it was a bear. So that was a bit of, we should have seen the signs. Obviously, no raccoon is that big to knock over a trap.
Well, now you know now.
But that was certainly one of those lifetime things you'll never forget. And because everything came out so well, it's a story you feel glad to tell.
Yeah.
I feel pretty crappy. It's like, oh yeah, I did a mauled Eddie to death. Boy, we learned a lot.
No, I lost a finger.
That's right. So, hey, the funny thing about those stories are there's a huge element of danger.
That's the next question. Is like, what were the risks involved? Well, there's a freaking bear. So.
Yeah. But the humor part and probably the glad to be alive part is you had a life. Really, looking as a kid, it felt like a life-threatening situation.
Yeah.
And you came through it, and you're fine. And it's a story you'll tell when your kids are older.
Yeah, I caught a bear for a raccoon trap. He's the most interesting man in the world. All right. So risk involved. What are the benefits from this? Just having a great story and learning.
Yeah, and the benefits of it are, you look back and it's certainly camaraderie building.
Right.
John Conlon, Eddie Conlon, myself. Well, we'll never forget it. Um, we'll always laugh and say, "Hey, Poconos? Yeah, that's right." It's a shared experience. You'll remember it. It was definitely at the time a binding experience. And even when you were kids growing up, you kind of mention it to teens. Like, oh, you guys saw a bear? Yeah.
Colin.
Yeah, this far away from us.
Wait, how old were you again?
Probably 15, 16.
Okay, so you're too younger than me.
Yeah.
So
So
I was thinking like you might be like 8 or 9, like
no,
it's like Encyclopedia Brown type age.
no. But a lot of them were woodsy type things. You want me to give you one other quick one?
Yeah, what?
All right. Again, the woods. We were at
What's it in the woods?
I spent a lot of time.
Suburbia.
No, I spent. This is all camping.
Yeah.
So I went to the youth.
Oh, the Boy Scouts.
Right. In the Boy Scouts, I went to youth leader training, and one of the things we had to do was.
Kind of like what I did in 8th grade.
Yep.
Not to keep track, but.
But with our patrol.
Okay.
We were probably 8th grade freshman year. We had to take our food.
Right.
Go out in the woods. No adults at all. It was just yourself, your patrol.
How could this possibly go wrong?
You had to follow the map. You had to go to a certain site. You had to spend the night. You had to talk about a couple of things they want open
what,
a packet
and survive as the
No, you need to talk about leadership, who did what, how the trip worked well.
Okay.
And then you had to come back the next day. But looking
that
back,
was the tricky part.
But looking back as an adult,
yeah.
I know there's always supervision because we supervise all our guys, but a lot of times they have no clue they're being supervised. So there's the element of them being alone, but they're truly not alone.
With like scout cameras like over the hill.
So we're
behind a rock the whole time.
So we're walking through this path, and as we're walking, it's like a children of the corn moment, where slowly but surely the plants are getting bigger, and the cattails are growing larger, and now we're going through this muddy trail in a swampy area, and you can't see anything on either side of you. The sun's going down.
Yeah.
It's getting to that dusk effect. So the light is not quite bright anymore, and your mind can start playing all sorts of tricks on you. So we're sitting there, and all of a sudden we start hearing from far up to the right a thumping noise. Oh my God! It's like 3 of us, 4 of us, and it's getting louder and louder, and we have no idea what this is. And it's just nerve-wracking because it sounds like the sound is coming from all around, louder and louder. This rhythmic, and all from the trail, 10 feet in front of us, bursts out this huge stag, antlers, huge, and it stops and it looks at us, and we stop and look at it, and it's that moment in time frozen where. Antlers. It's not Bambi. This thing can kill you if it charges, if we're on its territory.
If you really felt like it, you would not walk home the next day.
And we're looking at it, and it looks looking at us. And it turns and bounds through the cattails, brushing the other side, and you hear it receding. And again, it's like,
damn it.
Oh my God.
What's with the wildlife?
But a lot of the adventures we had were out in the woods. And you learn that there's a lot of stuff out there that will kill you if you don't respect it.
Yeah. If you throw a rock at it, you probably wouldn't be telling me the story. Right
well, remember we went walking to the Alpine? Yeah. We were meeting up the rest of the crew, and we looked up the hill. Oh, look, there's 2 of them. There are 2 does.
Yeah.
And we said, don't look at them yet, because over the right was another stag. And the stag was watching us, and I said, don't make eye contact, just keep walking. We don't want to, oh, look, go pet the pretty deer. No, because the antlers are designed to maul you to death. Let them go. We'll go. We'll be fine.
What were the risks involved in that story? And the rewards? Just great respect for nature.
I think a lot of it does teach you, one, controlling your fear. Yeah. We were 4 or 5 of us in the woods. No one ran screaming in panic. No one, lost their cool. It was a shared experience where everyone's like, as scared but as brave as everyone else because no one broke and ran.
Right.
And it kind of, I guess you learn a bit about yourself because you didn't break and run. So, okay, maybe I'm a little braver than I ever gave myself credit for.
Yeah.
And it teaches you a little more about the woods. Am I going to... there are bears around there. There are, deer, certainly in rural areas. It teaches a respect that there are things out there that, won't think twice of harming you. No matter how high up on the human evolution chain we are,
Yeah.
and that's part of the respect. We're all
Mutual,
guards creatures.
yeah, mutually respect each other.
They have more natural weaponry than I do.
God damn it. Uh, yeah, well, the next question, you don't really have to answer this. If you have none, adventure stories, uh, why not? And what, all I say is, what do you wish you could have done, but you didn't? Just throw that out there.
Um, I, I don't know. I mean, I had a great childhood.
Yeah.
I played, little league baseball until I was 12, and that was certainly adventurous. Kind of being like the Rusty Staub and the Mets of that year.
Yeah.
Those are your sports heroes. Trying to be like them.
Yeah.
And then when we moved up here to Crestwood, traipsing around down by the Bronx River, going on camping trips with the Scouts, which was huge, eye opening at the time. And we had a lot of backwoods adventures, and then those continued into the teen years. Once we were out of the Scouts,
Yeah.
we decided to go river rafting down the Gauley River,
Mhm.
and that was just kind of the spur of the moment with my teen buddies. Hey, who wants to go rafting? You guys go. And we talked about how we gone rafting. Like, where'd you guys go? And then someone came back. I just found a brochure my dad had. The Gauley River, east of the east, down in Virginia. Do you want to go? Like, sure. We planned it, we executed it, and we came back. That was a great trip. A lot of memories.
Beast, beast. That was good.
Oh,
That's good.
it had a huge lot of. You had to wear a wetsuit. It was during dam release season. So,
Well, they just open up dams?
no, you start at the dam. So, I mean, you get in your river, you and your 8 people, and you got the guide with you, and there's millions of gallons a second of water pouring out. I mean, you can't imagine how loud it is because it's just a huge hole.
Just a wall of water.
And the wall's there, and the pipe is just spewing water. And the first thing the guide says, "All right, when we get in the river, we all have to pull hard to the right once we get out past this jetty, because if not, the whirlpool will pull us under."
And we'll die.
And then we'll be ejected out, 50, 60 feet downstream from the current. Okay.
Well, it's still, I already gave you my $20.
Yeah, but I mean, we had a lot of adventures like that as teens in the woods and with each other.
Yeah. I want back in my generation. I think definitely with a lot more electronic entertainment and all that. I think a lot of that kind of all of the outdoors is certainly left because I like going on camping trips. I'm a Boy Scout too, but I feel like a lot of my contemporaries probably don't go out in the woods, don't really have that fascination because either they don't care or they just have no interest in it. And I think in ways, that's just how the time goes. Also, kind of sad because you know 20 miles from here, it's really different. It's a lot more rural, a lot more nature. I mean, I think down here people sort of sense that we've kind of owned the world, but not really not. Your story.
Well, no, I mean, well, the one thing I've told you before, I think boys need adventure.
Yes.
I mean, I think every boy grows up, wanting to be heroic, wanting to be brave, wanting to do something like that. I mean, back when I was a kid, we'd play army or we'd play cowboys and Indians. I was always like, charging the hill.
Now that's racist.
Now, yeah. Sorry. Now we have to fight with the Indians. But there's always that element of heroism, and you're kind of living your fantasies. And I think you see some of that with video games. I mean, no one plays the aliens. They play the hero who's mowing down the aliens, who's threatening Earth. I mean, so there's that. There still is that element of saving the day, of being heroic.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's virtual. It's not.
It's manifests itself in something different.
Yeah, I would say that. And now with social media, with wearing microphones, with having a party online doing something,
Yeah.
I think you still have those same kind of experiences of coming together as a group, defeating the boss. Our experiences were coming together, cooking meals, building a fire, building a shelter.
Yeah.
Different.
And then
means,
nearly getting killed by some giant foreign wildlife.
Yeah. But different means, but I think also the same ends. We accomplish something together. I think online today, you have that same thing, but it's a little more safe.
Mm-hmm.
which is why I don't understand any kind of gung ho person why they haven't joined the Scouts yet. Because Mr. Grady, I say, knives, fire, guns. What more do you want?
What else does a 12-year-old kid want with his life?
Sleeping outside. What other?
No parents.
What other group of people will sit there and say, "All right, now you're trained on axe, go chop wood," and we'll have a senior scout watch you, but you're smacking things with an axe.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Don't hurt yourself. Go have fun. Be safe now.
So I do think whether it's the Scouts or together, I still think young guys will have those stories of either taming wilderness or taking down the boss or that time when all looked bleak and I pulled out the last ditch effort and we downed whoever the boss of the dungeon is.
Yeah. Let me see how far along we're. Hey, wow, that did not feel like half an hour. All right. Next question is, what was the best advice that you've ever been given? And who gave it to you and what?
Ooh.
Aha, caught you off guard. Didn't expect this one, did you?
No, best is so subjective. I've been given so much advice.
That's what I found. Like, I'm always sarcastic, but I feel like to narrow down to the one piece of advice that you consider best is is close to impossible for me because the wisdom of so many people comes together and it kind of it works with each other, so you can't just isolate one thing and says that's it, that's the one I'm gonna follow by, or that's what I'm gonna idolize. Because
I mean, there's probably been so much best advice for any given situation.
Yeah,
and I find, and that's getting old. That's kind of the perspective you get is you understand how the advice works together. Probably a couple of them were, do what you love and the money will follow. I think that's a huge part of your happiness is doing something that it's not work every day. It's something you
look forward to.
Yeah, my joke was they're paying me to do this, and they're paying me to do stuff I love. How cool is that? It's so situational. Probably the only thing that still sticks, and it's not really advice. It's been the Scout law, and the Scout oath, and just those principles to live by. So many generic ones. I'll tell you and it's gonna sound corny. I'll tell you the one that has given me the most trouble, and I remember I told you about it. When that guy came and just keyed our car, got the new car and keyed the car, and I was like,
that was infuriating.
It was. But I looked.
I wasn't driving it.
I looked at you and said, "Did that guy just key our car?" And went over. Sure enough, our 2-week-old Jeep has a key mark in it. And walking the dog at night and reviewing the day, I usually pray at night when I'm walking the dog. I think over the day.
You do the Nation exam, and we do Friday.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, and probably not as formal as you guys do.
Yeah,
but I try and think of what I did during the day, how I could have done it better. Maybe I didn't approach a situation as well as I could. But this one was I was saying the Lord's Prayer, and I got to the point where it was, "Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us." And all of a sudden, blazing light, I saw the guy who keyed the car, and I realized, holy God, is that hard? How do I forgive the guy who willfully destroyed, my property?
He's in front of us too. He walked by us.
Yeah, he gave us the eye. He looked and he keyed the car. Yeah, how do I let go of that anger and all that kind of that rage of why would anyone do that to our car? We don't even know them. We've done nothing to harm him. But it was that forgive us, our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And I realized, that bit of advice, which we've been saying all our lives, wow, is that hard? Is that just an incredible challenge? If you can do that, then maybe we are worthy of being forgiven. Can I forgive the schmuck who did that to the car?
After having it for 2 weeks.
Yeah. But I came.
The brand spanking new silver luxury.
Yeah, well, it came. It was a number of nights of walking the dog, mulling that over, realizing that that's let the psychic baggage go. Forgive them. move on.
But if I see him, I will run him over.
No,
Remember me.
well, what happens then is once the rage goes away, you kind of think, why did the guy do that? What was driving him? What would drive anyone to do that? And what a sorry state he must be in to feel like he's got to strike out at some random guy with a car.
With the nicer car that he will ever know.
But then, that's how I eventually reconciled it. That it must have been hard to be that guy at that time. Whatever was going on in his mind.
Yeah.
To do that.
He looked pretty high on drugs, not gonna lie.
Yeah, he had the strange looking in his eyes, but again, what drove him to that point?
Yeah.
Then it's probably the best one was way back by my mom. Never be possessed by your possessions.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's a car. It's not me. I wasn't lying bleeding on the ground.
He didn't key you across the board.
Yeah, he didn't knife me. It was just a car.
Yeah. So that's plenty more scratches on now anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah. Look at the red Jeep that the Dodge Dart I had.
Oh my baby.
Scratches are unavailable, unavoidable. So I guess the summing up of that is each situation I've come across has always had applicable advice. Some are more golden rules like Scout Law and the Lord's Prayer. Others are more specific like never invest in consumer durables.
Like tattoos.
Yeah, no, don't get tattoos.
Just don't get tattoos. Listen, I guess not to go back into the scouting thing again. We like scouting. I think the Scout Oath and Law, they're probably the most well-rounded. I think for Catholics, Jewish people, Muslims. I think it's the most well-rounded thing that most anyone could probably follow. Man or woman. I think it's just probably the best way to probably go through life and keep a positive attitude and not cause conflict.
Yeah, I think it's a great guide, especially for young men growing up.
Yeah.
And I guess the nice thing about the Scouts is there's nothing overtly religious about it.
Yeah.
So you don't feel like you're being hammered by God, but you're certainly
praise God, the true God, the only God that matters.
But you're certainly being led to live a life of honor, integrity, and according to an oath.
Yeah.
So, and if you'll find that the times that were most difficult in your life is when you look back and say, yeah, I probably strayed from that part. And if I'd listened to my inner instinct, and I probably wouldn't have had to go through with this.
Now I wouldn't have this tattoo.
Tattoos.
That's not how you spell regrets.
Yeah.
You see that? We're the Millers. They got brief story. This guy organized a fake family to go down to Mexico, bring back drugs, and the daughter he hires to be his daughter gets this crush on this random white trash guy that has a tattoo on his chest that says "No regrets," but regrets is spelled RAGRETS. So he's like, really, no regrets? He's like, yeah, man. He's like, no regrets at all? Not even a letter? Regrets. That was funny. Alright, I guess last question, kind of wrap it up. Again, off the same string as the last one. What advice do you have for me as I get closer to leaving high school, about entering college, about relationships, about work? So what are you going to tell me right now that's going to affect the rest of my life and how I make decisions and how I end up?
It's funny. I'm going to tell you nothing.
Thank you.
No, you've been my son for so long.
Right.
It's kind of if I hadn't prepared the way now.
After 17, almost 18 years of knowing.
Some random words. Oh, by the way, no tattoos, no drugs. It's kind of like saving up for college. Mom and I started saving up through college. Year one. Oh, it's a grand little boy. We'll call him Sean. Open up the bank account. Because I'm going to need to pay for something for 18 years. But the way we've raised you and Mary Kate has been the same way. It hasn't been you're going away for college now. Let's stuff him full of wisdom now because he's going to need it. We've prepared you all along with starting out please and thank you to setting the table.
It's funny. I still see people who don't say that, and it bothers the hell out of me. Like, how do you not do that?
But doing your own laundry when you start swimming, swim laundry. Now you're doing all your own laundry. You're ready to go. I mean I mean I kind of look back when I left. I didn't leave. I stayed home for college, but I did leave a couple of years after.
You couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah. But no, you're ready. Probably the only advice I would give you would be do something better than I did. Call your mother. When I moved out,
Yeah.
I don't think I spoke to my mom other than through the holidays, or even she worked like a couple of miles away, and I never invited her over to my apartment. It never dawned on me. But my mom, being my mom, realized I needed my own space at the time and didn't want to.
Well, I guess that's good on her part. Not
Yeah,
to,
didn't want to come over and.
Because probably if she just can I come over? That probably would have like made you feel upset or like I don't know another word like just like she didn't respect that you're out of the house, you're grown up or anything. But
I probably the only thing I'd reiterate, other I love you, stay safe, be careful, all those things.
Don't be stupid.
Is give your mother a call,
yeah.
And if you ever get in trouble,
call
for anything, any reason, and we said this before, no recriminations, no things. Call me whenever, wherever, and I'll come.
Except if you need bail,
pick you up.
I can.
Well, let me know if I need to bring cash.
Yeah.
Ted, can you come pick me up? And by the way, they don't accept credit card. But that would be it. It's just that go, live your life, develop as a young man, knowing that you have a fallback position.
Yeah, my room, and I need to pay rent.
Well, you absolutely will pay rent once you come back. When I came home after my first job, my mom looked at me and said, "Oh, it's great, Stephen. I'm glad you're living home. You get the chance to save money, but you're going to help out with the food bill, and we're going to charge you." I think at the time it was, I'm going to say, $50 a month, $75 a month.
Were you making enough to cover that? Or?
Oh yeah, I mean it was a token, but my mom was always smart that way, where
it wasn't baby, come back home.
Yeah, no, you were coming back. That'll be the strange thing when Sean goes away, and I'll talk to Mom about this. Come next September, you're leaving, as my son, and you're coming back as a visitor.
Oh, that's gonna be
weird. It's gonna be weird, and it's something I'll.
It's gonna be weird when I come back to my room. There's gonna be papers all over my bed. Mom's like, "Oh, I'll just clear this up. Just give me an hour."
Or no, it'll be your room will become Mary Kate's large. Mary Kate and Sean have a door they share. It's blocked off, and Mary Kate has already said, Sean, I will miss you every time I walk into my new large walk-in closet.
Our room's not big.
But yeah, so that's
such a terrible joke. I hate you for that.
But it's great for Mary Kate to put those pieces together so humorously, which just says that she will miss you. As will I. But that's going to be the strange part. Is you're coming home and as...
Especially when you take the air conditioners out. When you try to get back.
Where's Sean? Jeez. I knew it.
Guys.
Okay, grab the end of that. I'm not strong enough.
Damn it.
No, you'll be coming back as a young man who's, you'll have more experiences than I'm not involved with. It's one of those, I won't be with you to share the experiences. You're now coming back to tell me your stories and share your experiences, and it's great. It's a step forward. It's a step in the right direction, but it's a step that I got to get used to.
Yeah.
Talk to Mr. Mosh about this. Like, oh my God, our eldest sons are leaving. It's sad, but it's the story of mankind.
Yeah. Oh. And that's it. Well, thank you for doing this.
It's a pleasure.
Hopefully you
edit it for content.
Hopefully this will get me an A. Yeah. And all right, well, thank you again. I really appreciate doing this.
No, you're welcome, Sean.
All right, now we're gonna put this on YouTube, get a couple million views, and then be invited to be a panelist on The View.
Oh Lord, not The View.
Yes, The View. All right, and.